Welcome to another episode of Management Muse. I'm your host, Cindi Baldi, and this is my husband and co-host, Geoffrey Tumlin.
Yellow! Welcome to the podcast where we try to inspire better work performance. Thanks for listening.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today on Management Muse. Today we are going to discuss how one family went about creating a family business. And so this is an outtake from the Barry Couch episode on people skills, where we had a bit of a diversion into how he incorporated his son into the business. We thought this might be useful to some people who are either thinking about forming a family business, or if you have an existing business and are struggling on how to bring a family member in. This is how it worked successfully for one family. Hope you enjoy. Hope it's helpful.
One of the things that has interested me about Barry is he started building his company, and then a number of years in, one of his sons joined, and then the two of them basically took the company, as the saying goes, to the next level. But talk about thorny interpersonal issues. Can you talk a little bit about what it was like and how you had to deploy your people skills to figure out how to work with your son in a way that was going to be meaningful but not disrupt the existing relationship?
Yeah, those are not only thorny but high risk. And I don't know what the statistics are, but most family businesses struggle with that. And, you know, the founder of the company builds it up, kids come in and wreck it. Story after story after story. So when my son and I, Brant, started engaging in conversation, and there was a lot of work leading up to this that I think was still the right decision to do. When we decided maybe this would work, we sat down and just said we got to have some rules, because the number one rule is we don't want to mess up our relationship, and you don't want to be that guy that wrecked the family business, and I don't want to be the guy that didn't see that you couldn't help do what you wanted to do. So the two big areas of risk that we had to manage was, number one, our relationship, his and mine, and then number two, his coworkers' relationship, because now I'm bringing a family member into a non-family member coworker relationship, and there's all sorts of trepidation and concerns about that. Part of my ability, and I think Brant's ability to get through that, was we had seen it not work more than we had seen it work.
And how did that help you get through it? How did seeing the anti-example help you out?
Yeah, we set expectations up front. We use a term somewhat. We had an upfront contract, and we talked about if these conditions exist, how are we going to address them? We don't know if we'll ever be met with this situation, but what are we going to do? And we started honestly role-playing it a little bit and saying, hey, let's make this work. So here's several things that could go wrong. What do you think could go wrong? And he'd lay out some examples of things that would bother him if we didn't head it off and see it coming. He was real open about it. And I might add, by then, he'd already worked in the workforce 8 years prior to joining our company. So he had to earn his own job. He had to keep his own job. He had to perform. He had to work with a lot of people.
I think that's a key difference.
Huge difference, I think. Hiring your child right out of high school or college is a huge mistake, I think. It can work, but
I mean, having come from family businesses and worked with a lot of family businesses, the problem with it is that as the person who's being hired, you never feel like you're being valued. Either because your parents feel like they hooked you up with the job, or because everybody around you is like, well, you're working here because you're a family member. Yeah. Whereas if you go out and you stand on your own 2 feet, first of all, I think you see a different management style and you learn from it. And you're making a decision that I want to go back, but you've established at a point where you've already established a value for what you do. That's externally validated. Mm-hmm. And so I think it changes like a lot of the dynamics when you bring in a family member into a business when they've already established themselves.
Yeah, and I would never advise people don't hire your family members, but it's different, and you've got to have some upfront expectations, and you've got to put them in a position to cast their own way about it, to spread their own wings, get out of your way, get out of my way, and get out there and just get with your other teammates, your coworkers, and show them what you've got. I can't show them what you've got and don't want to. So one of the other things that I would always advise people to do if you're going to hire a family member is get others to interview you. I don't want to be your sole interview, and I don't want to be your sole employer. So
you had people interview Brant?
I had another little side company.
Yeah.
That was run by a doctor and a nurse for the business that we're in healthcare. And we were looking for a business development person. We interviewed several other people, and I said to these 2 partners of mine, I said, because they came to me and said, what about Brant? I said, I've got concerns about that. So I said, what I'd like for you
Hopefully he knows this story
knows
already.
Yeah,
Okay.
so that way he doesn't find out that you had, you had concerns.
Too much disclosure. Yeah.
He was in on the deal.
Yeah.
From the beginning. But basically, I said to these people, my partners, I want you to interview other people. You're welcome to interview him because you think he might be a fit. And once you work through some interviews, if you'll narrow it down to a couple of people, I'll be glad to interview those people as well. And then we'll all huddle and say who might be the best. And Brant knew this from the very beginning. I said, you may not get hired because of these reasons, but trust me, the independent and the arm's length of this process we're going to use, if you are the best fit, number one, you will appreciate it better long-term than you might feel like you do today. He was totally engaged in that. He still had a good job. So he wasn't desperate, but he was interested in the future of our company and the opportunity that might be there. So he played along, and as it turned out, my 2 partners came to me, and I said, how's it going? And they said, well, we've interviewed. He's your best candidate, he being Brant. And so my first thought was, hooray. My second thought was, oh, crap.
Yeah.
Now I've got to deal with this.
Sure.
So we worked through it just fine. As time has gone on, and he's been with us 20 years now, I think the where we are today and the lesson learned from all of that is he told me one day, hey, I need to come see you about something. And in the early stages, he'd bring me an issue or a problem, and I'd go right into fixing it. Okay, here's what you need to do. Here's how you need to solve this. And I could tell he wasn't comfortable with it. As it turned out, it wasn't his idea to solve it that way, or it wasn't his style or approach to do it that way. So then he would start coming to me and say, hey, I need to talk to you. I'd like to share something with you, and I need to get your advice, but under one condition. I said, yeah, what's that? Bring it. I'm ready to help. The one condition is I don't want you to fix anything. I don't want your solution. I want you to help me find my solution. And I thought, oh man, I've never done that. I don't know if that'll work or not. But that worked. And I was okay with it. I still have that tendency. I still have that bad
Fix it.
trait
Yeah.
to
Jump in and fix it.
I do it for all the employees, but my wife says, well, it's your son. You're going to always go out and save them. But I didn't. And to this day, he's manifested to be much better than I am. His people skills are different, but he's very relational. And he has built a good company from where I left it to him. And couldn't be happier.
And I think there's a number of important points, but let me just highlight the last thing that Barry mentioned is Brant, his son's people skills are different and his approach is different than yours. And that's okay. We're talking in large part about what has made Barry successful. But if you're listening to this podcast, you don't have to be like Barry. Take some of the ideas and run them through your own filter, your own experiences, your own tendencies, and then try to build the relationships, run the experiments. And Barry said something very important at the start of this discussion about actually practicing difficult situations you may find yourself in.
So, Barry, you said that Brant is different than you. So give us a sense for how your leadership styles differ.
I'm easier to talk to, I've been told. I'm probably a little more empathetic. I'll spend a little more time working through whatever time they think it needs to be. Listened the best you can, and then listen some more. Avoid jumping to conclusions or avoid disrupting or interrupting. These are just, if I can come off as being, I authentically care about this situation, then that employee just seems to be pretty comfortable or gets comfortable. I protect the confidence of that conversation. As much as I like to joke and kid and play around, like Jeff does, when you're in those, you've also got to take it seriously. There's a time and a place to bring it up a little, make it light. And if they want to make something light of it, help them, because they're trying to escape a little bit, or they're trying to change the emotion that they're getting themselves into. And so, yeah, go along with that. Make it light for them. And then if they're relaxed, they'll continue. I think from what I've observed, Brant, and maybe others have told me, is he likes to get to the point. He likes to, he's a fact finder, much like I am. He'll start asking them more probing questions. I don't like to start asking questions right up front. The only question I might ask up front is, by the end of this conversation, what would you like to have accomplished? How can I help? Where do you want this to go? And it's another way of saying, do you want my advice, or do you want me just to listen? And sometimes people just want you to listen. And by the end of the conversation, they've solved their own problem.
Or at least they feel better for having talked about it.
Yeah. It maybe gives them confidence. They're role-playing it out a little bit. They know they need to go back to that other person and probably address this, because I'm not going to save them. I'm not going to go fix it.
Right.
So I'm fine doing that role playing and whatnot. But other people like Brant, there's no two alike, are going to approach it differently. And I think those are probably some of the comparisons I can think of.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wonderful, Barry.
Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you want to learn more about the topic, check out our show notes. And if you want to help us out, like, share, subscribe, and 5 stars are all deeply appreciated. See you next time on the Management Muse.